right, it is 2:05. Let's call the meeting to order at 2:05. So Roland is not here. He is in Maine and has no internet connection. So we're gonna pass over the minutes. We'll vote on those next meeting. And then now we have the presentation from Kimley Horn.
Sounds good. And I'm gonna share my screen. I apologize in advance if it's just me today. So I'll be taking notes and presenting and stuff. So bear with me if there's any technological difficulties. But first we wanted to just kind of bring everybody up to speed. It's been a minute since we met. Most of y'all or several of y'all attended our, in person charrette and all of that, but where have we come since then? And some of y'all also helped with reviewing the draft what we call the key findings, which is primarily the existing conditions. It's primarily what we've been hearing. And so what we've been working on since then has largely been focusing on the action items. What do we want to do about it? So largely that's the difference in the report, the draft version of the report or the draft revision of the report that Alex shared with y'all yesterday. But also just kind of wanted to go back to the beginning and debrief on where we've come from here. So, sorry, I kind of walked through that already. So catching up on who we are, what we're trying to do here, a review of the overall purpose of this project, brief summary of what we found, and the draft recommendations. And for everybody's awareness, our final plans, we submitted this draft to y'all for your review. We submitted it to Ariana at MBI so that she'll have it and give us her review and feedback. Our final reports are due the end of June to MBI. We've got some time after that to apply for funding for any of the action items, which, as y'all may or may not have heard, the MBI program funding is on pause. So the funding applications and everything that have been going to be due, they're still due. We're still going to help y'all with submitting them and anything, submitting the plans, because they're definitely still relevant. And then as well as submitting any applications for funding on the action items that y'all want help with, because our hope is that the funding will come back. It's on pause because of the concerns with equity, basically, but technology still being a pretty key role in everybody's life today. We're hoping that it'll come back, and Ariana and MBI are working through that right now. So we still want to stay on track with all of that and just maybe be on a little of a delay on getting the funding and doing something with it. So purpose of the plan has been to bridge the digital divide by providing everybody with affordable access to the internet, devices, and digital skills. And that's the statewide plan as well as these municipal plans. The components of digital equity, again, across the board, across the country, are made up of these three key components. So devices, do residents have devices that are adequate for the uses that they need them for? Are devices affordable or otherwise accessible, like at the library? Do all residents have an internet connection? Is it affordable? Is it fast? Is it reliable? Is it always on, as they say, for broadband? And then literacy and skills. Do residents have the ability to use the technology that's available to them and the internet? Are there concerns about trust, privacy, and safety? And how can we do something about that if any of these are in needs of improvement? So MBI's statewide program, coming down to the municipal level, it's a grant program that was intended to help communities with identifying gaps and needs that are specific to the towns and cities, and even some of the regional municipal regions as well. We know these are some statewide trends, but let's get down to the local level and see what's going well, what's not going well. So the Massachusetts Broadband Institute was established to help unserved and underserved community gain access to broadband, as well as assisting communities with decision making and investments, grant opportunities, funding, access to funding, whether it's MBI funded specifically or other grant programs, helping connect you with what you would need, and preparing you all for those things so that you can overcome your existing barriers, whether it's related to broadband internet access or the other components of digital equity that we discussed a minute ago. So common themes across the Commonwealth that we're also seeing largely in Hadley: slow Wi-Fi, one or very few service providers, high cost to consumers, which in a lot of cases has to do with that one service provider problem, and digital literacy gaps. Again, all of these were themes across the state as well as specifically in Hadley. So at the town-focused outreach that we've been doing, it included public engagement like the charrettes that we had back in January, as well as the surveys that were put on through MBI and the stakeholder interviews that we conducted throughout the process as well. Some of the specific areas geographically that were noted as issues are on a slide in a minute, the actual Honey Pot and Cemetery Road. But these are what people shared in person of, I know there was good or bad internet from my experience. So the pink being the bad and green being good. Again, we want to improve, or we want to kind of repeat things that are going well and identify the areas where it's not going well. And then from the surveys, between getting folks to do them in person, y'all with your pop-up events, as well as online, all of the other advertising that has been going into it. I will say, of the towns that we've worked with, y'all have done an outstanding job from a number of responses standpoint. We got 208 responses. On average, some of the themes that we were seeing, respondents reported spending approximately $103 a month on internet subscription, which is in line with what we're seeing across the different towns that we're working with, but obviously that's expensive. That's a lot of money. And sometimes that can make or break your ability to actually do something with the internet. You may be able to afford the $103 a month, but maybe you can't then afford the cell phone that goes with it to be able to use it, or the laptop that you would need to buy to be able to use it. Or might impact your ability to like pay for gas. So then in addition to that, we had 75% of respondents saying that they had Spectrum. And I believe I mentioned this later, but in addition to that, Spectrum is the only hardwired option in the town, which is again another theme, but not a great scenario to be in, where there's cellular issues where you could have fixed wireless, where you use a cell phone connection and then a router at the home to have Wi-Fi in your home. Where you have spotty cell phone coverage, that's not a great option. Plus, there's, if depending on the amount of data that you're using, that can definitely get ratcheted back as well. So wireline being the more ideal, 75% of folks having Spectrum, but that being the only option. And then 25% indicated their internet service does not work well enough to support their daily needs, which is significant. Again, it's not over half, but it is a large percentage. And then 40% are interested in training in some form, which is a really high percentage. 64% of that 40% having the preference towards online, on demand, whenever I want to. I think that kind of lends itself, or is more in line with like or how things are today. A lot of people want to be able to do it whenever they want to do it, and they want to do it in the comfort of their own home, right? I think that's what a lot of folks just say, not necessarily thinking about whether they'd have the adequate internet to do so, as well as whether they might then need some help. So we kind of take that preference with a grain of salt, but it is noteworthy that a lot of folks would be interested in that, which plays a little bit into our action items in a little bit. And then very significant, 76% are concerned about internet safety. Not surprising, but something that identifies a gap, a barrier. Some other town characteristics that are noteworthy with respect to the action items and what do we do for Hadley that aren't necessarily part of the survey. Approximately 32% of your population is 60 years or older, which is a large percentage. It's not shocking, but it is significant to where one, you've got the barriers with the financially constrained because they're on a fixed income. And the not necessarily raised with as much technology, but also part of what goes into this next bullet item, a large percentage of residents are homeowners. I have this kind of backwards. There's 30%, 31% that are renters, which means more than 50% are owners, but a large percentage of that is probably the fixed income population as well. So there's a large percentage of renters, comparatively speaking, and a large percentage of the owners are probably also on a fixed income. And then approximately 7% of multilingual residents. Again, that's not a huge percentage, but it's noteworthy, something to be keeping in mind as we're talking through the action items and resources we're trying to make available to your residents. The parts of town that were that are currently unserved and that Alex has been coordinating with trying to get connected with Spectrum through the BEAD challenge. There's 31 total passings, which is basically connection points, homes or businesses. And the ones that were mentioned are the 5 you see on the screen: Honey Pot, Cemetery Road, Moody Bridge Road, Governor's Drive, and Chmura Road. And then the last is a good thing, but noteworthy, is that municipal fiber is in progress to being built out to some of the municipal buildings, which is helping some of the folks that we talked to, like public safety was concerned about their ability to be able to connect with their dispatchers and emergency services that are out and about. If cell phone coverage goes down, what do I do? Because that's how they're connecting with each other. Or if the internet at the building goes down. So cell phone coverage across the town being one thing, but we definitely can't have the building going down. So that's going to help that when that's complete. So a summary of key needs that we identified in Hadley are a need for increased Wi-Fi speeds at the library. It's a really great resource that a lot of people are using, but there's always room for improvement, especially to continue to support folks that are working remotely, that want to go to the library for a consistent internet connection for meetings and that sort of thing. The more people you have at the library, the more that speed is going to be impacted. Improvements to inconsistent service. So we mentioned some of the internet services, the cell phone coverage that gets dropped, but also the inconsistencies in customer service and the latency, and like I'm paying for broadband speed, but I'm not necessarily getting that all of the time. It might go down in the middle of the day, that sort of thing. Service to the unserved areas that we mentioned earlier, definitely something that MBI sees as like anything that we can do about that. They've been trying to put a lot of funding towards that to get everybody at least served, even if it's an expensive option, at least having something available. Gaps in digital literacy, several folks saying that they, need support with being safe and using technology. And then support for multilingual residents. So again, with filling in those gaps, how do we also serve the multilingual residents? The community anchor institutions and key partners that we see helping, or that so far have already been helping and we see continuing to help, or more opportunities to help with these action items, are the library, the senior center, the schools, Cooley Dickinson Hospital, UMass, and the public safety, which obviously IT kind of folding in there as well, but because they serve overall, but those being those locations that people are already going to for help, and finding ways to continue to help the population at those locations seems to be a really great, or would be a really great way to expand. Obviously we want, like messaged on the last slide, or mentioned on the last slide, we need to make sure that we're serving all the homes, but for folks that aren't getting the service they need at their home or aren't yet there, we need somewhere for them to be able to get the help, as well as for folks that do want in-person support, technical support, training, that sort of thing. These are the locations that we identified as places that can be given. And like I said, is already being given. So the next couple slides are our draft recommendations, and then I'm just going to open it up for questions. I'm also going to pull up the report that shows some more detail about these recommendations and the action items that go along with them. But I'm just going to kind of walk through them really quickly. Creating a permanent fiber/digital task force and designating a digital champion. So far, you've already kind of done that. And as far as I know, it's in the works, but definitely, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, that like, one, why do we need to create this task force separate from the digital equity group, the committee that we already have? Is someone who's pretty much dedicated to, or a group of people that are dedicated specifically to improving the communications options to the town. So there's the, how do we give support to the residents, that sort of thing is already what y'all are doing. We're investigating, and ideally this committee would be maintained and continue to work on implementing those things. This separate group would be talking to different fiber providers, whether it's Spectrum or Fiber Spring or an MBI, about grants and specifically trying to improve options in for fiber to the home and for communications to the home and to the buildings in the town. Providing service to unserved and underserved areas. That was mentioned earlier, and in the action items, we actually have listed like the cost that we know is associated with that as of the latest estimates we got from Spectrum, and that's assuming Spectrum does it. There's obviously the option to fill in those gaps with other options. Pursuing discussions with the new service providers to gauge interest with working the town. That's things like Fiber Spring. It's already kind of underway, but continuing to do that. Completing efforts to expand the town's municipal fiber build out and service. That's from the feedback that we were given, that it's in progress, but there's still a remaining budget required to complete that connection to the public safety building. Improving Wi-Fi speeds at the library and the fire department. The fire department being a part of that municipal fiber build out, but also anything that we can do to improve speeds at the library, whether it's also connecting them into the municipal fiber plan or improving what they have from Spectrum. Purchasing additional devices for public use at the library and the senior center. That was something that was identified as, we've already got some, but it'd be great to have more. And it'd be great to have more staff to be able to service those devices or manage those devices. So that goes with this one. Increasing device staff support at the library and the senior center. Another one later having to do with the training and skills, but this having more to do with again, it was identified as, we have the iPads, but it takes someone's time and effort to be able to wipe them every time we loan them back out, those sorts of things, or the hotspots. I can't remember which you guys have, but someone being dedicated to doing that and dealing with technical support when there's problems, all that sort of thing, or if one doesn't get returned. Creating an on-demand digital library of skills training. So one option, one part of that component being dedicating a page on the town's website where you post information about either on your own training or trainings that are being, or a schedule of when trainings are being held at the library and at the senior center, etc. Establishing a local network of digital navigators, both English speaking and multilingual. And we have this spelled out a little bit more in the action plan of, they could be free by you continuing to partner with the schools. I think you said you're already doing, and volunteers, the COA, or we could revise that to be a paid opportunity, asking basically for salary to cover somebody to be able to fill that role during regular business hours. Expanding in-person workshops and updating the town's bylaws to require developers to install conduits for future use. That's a new one that we're thinking through, that again, it would be coordinated with your town administrators. But as new developments are built, if they put in the conduit that to all the homes, it'll make the installation, whether it's from Spectrum or Fiber Spring or whoever, cheaper in the long run, because then all they're doing is the cable. As we've learned from working with y'all, building the fiber doesn't necessarily do it for them because they have their standard specifications, but generally speaking, everybody's willing to use a free conduit. So that is that. Now I'm going to open it up for discussion, but I'm also going to open up that report so that y'all can see what we're talking through, especially if you haven't had a chance to review the report yet of what Alex sent you yesterday. Our action plan is laid out this way, a little bit more detail about each of the items so I can scroll through as you want me to, including a time frame, potential funding opportunities, and cost, which again, in a lot of cases, we're indicating it's free because you could use volunteers to do it, but we welcome any input on, we'd like a dedicated staff and this is the salary it would take to do so, so that we can include that into the funding application. And same thing with, if you already know what it would take to, like these single, double dollar signs are more of like a range, because we don't necessarily know what people are making, you know, town staff and stuff like that make. We've made some assumptions about what range that falls in. But again, if you have solid numbers that we can use, we're happy to replace those.
So I do want to bring up a few things here, just in case not everyone knows, when it comes to hiring and spending and all that. So as of now, the town is looking into asking the town to have a tax override, because we are falling short in some budget items for FY26, and we want to prepare for FY27. So simply, money's kind of tight right now. I did want to bring that up. So I got one question for you, Cody. I see there's a cost of $121 for connection underserved households for the BEAD program. Where did $121,000 come from?
That was what you had said like it was all in an email chain from like a year ago. So that number could be out of date. But between you and Spectrum kind of coordinating what Spectrum said it would take. So if y'all went through the BEAD program application, that was the dollar amount that standing was the dollar amount of what was going to be applied for. So if it's more than that, we can change it.
It's absolutely more than that. It's going to be around $3 million.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Just for Honey Pot and cemetery, because they have to replace all the poles.
Okay.
I'm also meeting with our charter rep next week because I guess she has some clarifying information. But for right now, it is $3 million.
Okay, that is very helpful. And again, it makes a lot more sense. I probably misinterpreted an email.
No, I don't think you did misinterpret the email, considering it was from a year ago, because they let me know a few months ago. I've yet to write a letter to the select board and all the residents down over there. But it is $3 million.
Cool. Okay. And yeah, with respect to the comment that you made about the budget constraints, do you think that, so if we were to apply for funding and MBI gives you money, would you be able to utilize that funds, or is the town like on a hiring freeze?
I'm unclear whether or not we are in a hiring freeze. I'd have to ask around. But if we get funding and we're able to utilize it, I'd like to use it. I would just have to talk to our treasurer and payroll person on how that would look like if we were to hire someone through a grant.
Yep.
Because I've heard of concerns that people would apply for a grant, hire someone, and not include the other cost of hiring a person, like workman's comp and all that. So
yeah, there's something out there is probably I would think that if money is tight, the amount of grant funding to hire people, as I was just pointed out, rarely, even if it covers all of the salary, doesn't cover OPEB liability, it doesn't cover health insurance, it doesn't cover all the additional expenses that the town incurs. But that doesn't mean, in order to tackle some of the things that are priorities, you can consider a third-party consultant who's not a town employee.
Right.
All the problems go away.
Right.
Even
Yep.
if we were to pay a rate to, say, Northampton Open Media, who's already doing digital equity work for Northampton and police in the Hill Towns also. That third party part could help. They're doing like drop-in tech help and all that right now.
Right. And if we have if we can get an estimate, or if you know, or whatever, like what you're paying for that, or what it would cost to continue doing that for a year, or to expand the support they're giving, or whatever you guys want it to be, that type of thing could get included in the application, that this would cover consultant fees.
Okay.
And again,
so you want to be looking at you'd want to be looking at a way to expand capacity without incurring liabilities on the town side.
Okay.
So yeah, things such as you expand capacity through consulting, you don't give the town the headache of all the liabilities that go along with employees and the costs that aren't addressed through a grant. Because I don't think the town has an indirect rate. The schools certainly don't pick up indirects, so I doubt the town does. Yeah.
And what was the name of the consultant that you mentioned, Alex, just so I can write it down?
Northampton Open Media. They're pretty much Northampton version of us. I wouldn't say they're a consultant, but a similar organization does the work that we do. I can always find out how much it would cost for them to come to Hadley if they need if they even charge us.
Right.
I can always find out.
Right. And something else I meant to mention earlier is continued support from Kimley Horn is also an option. We've got a deadline for scopes and fees, if that's something that you want, with like grant applications or whatever. That's due next Friday, the 13th. I'm hoping that they'll open the applications back up, after the funding situation is sorted out. But for any towns that are saying they do want our help, if you want to identify that need, we're also MBI wants to continue providing support. They want to be able to make these plans for more towns, but they also want to. So that's in theory going to happen if funding comes back. But they also are planning to give funds to anybody who wants to continue to get consultant support from one of the MBI authorized, whether it's us or one of the other authorized vendors through that program. So you could partner with a couple of different consultants to be able to meet all those needs, not all the needs, but some of these things that we're talking about where you need additional staff, but you can't hire additional staff.
Mm-hmm. Could you send me, so that's like a grant, almost, if I were to fill this form out, that'd be like a grant.
Right.
And I would pay you to be the consultant for us again. Okay.
And we continue to be contracted with MBI, so you don't have to do any more paperwork beyond that.
Okay.
And it's separate from the other grant. So the other grant application is due in July. Any funding that we want to apply for this, which in theory that could also go under there. But I want money for new laptops. I want money to increase our internet speeds. I want money as part of our fiber build out. All that's in this grant application that's due in July. The next week is just, I want to continue to have consultant support from MBI.
Okay. Could you do I need to do anything for the June 13th deadline?
Just to verify what you need, I'll look back over the application and see if there's anything beyond that, but we fill it out for you. So as long as you agree,
okay,
and have ideas of what you would want support from, because I think every town's been a little bit different of what level of support they're doing. Like obviously you all have been really great about being very active in this plan and about like advertising the survey and everything else. You all are very active in digital equity already. So what you need might be a little bit different from some of the others. But I'll send it to you and we can talk about it offline sometime between now and next Friday. It doesn't look very complex.
Okay. My thought is definitely use Kimley Horn for helping us out with grant applications. Would anyone else have any other ideas on what we would need? Or is the grant applications like the biggest thing?
I don't have any other ideas at this time. I think that's what we need.
Yeah, because my one thing, because we're already looking to try to start the fiber task force. And there's other things that once we get the grant funding, we can do on our own.
Yep.
To accomplish many of these. Like for example, the bylaw update. I can easily write a letter to the bylaw committee, talk to them about the conduit situation, because they're still active. So, and then I'd also like to connect with like the library and the COA at some point.
Yeah, the only sorry.
Go ahead, Cody.
I was going to say the only other thought that I had was while y'all are establishing the fiber task force, if you think you'll need any help with like, if you do decide to go with Fiber Spring and you do get funding to be able to get Fiber Spring into the town, if you want any help with that process over the next probably year. After that, hopefully everything will be smooth sailing and grant applications or grants will be back in order and all that stuff. But whether you want any help with that too.
Okay. So would the committee be okay with me talking to Cody online on offline on where to look for more grant, or see what they can do besides grant opportunities, and then go from there?
Sure. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Sure.
All right. And then a few things from looking at this also. First of all, Roland couldn't make it today, so but he sent a thing of a bunch of grammar and spelling corrections. I'll send it over to you.
That's great.
And then I did want to point out that we kind of don't have an IT department.
Okay.
To like to complete the town's municipal fire build out. That's the fire department.
Okay.
I guess me and a couple of departments could take a look at additional laptops and desktops for public use. And there's also an organization out of Springfield who can give out refurbished laptops to the community. Compile library, and then for the other correction I have here, well, not correction, but the bylaw that could be a bylaw committee thing.
Okay.
One question, so me and the committee, and you know that Bead Challenge and other programs are kind of up in the air. Is there a way to just notate on like this part, where it's like where it says Bead Challenge, something in terms of if there's a federal freeze, there could be opportunities for it to come back.
Yeah, we've been working with Ariana about how she wants that worded, but we do plan
Okay.
to put that in. And I just forgot to put that in this one, but we do plan to put that with respect to the BEAD program and anything else associated with MBI, basically.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, there's another thing under section, I think 1 or 2, that talks about the program and the funding, and a portion of that funding that was mentioned as authorized is now not. So
Yeah.
some of it's spent, but some of it's not able to be spent.
Alex, can you tell me what page this is? Because I'm looking through the information you provided and I just want to get to it.
I'm looking at page 22, table 5.
22.
Tape 25 and 26.
25 to 26.
I'm sorry,
okay.
22 and 23.
20, okay. Okay,
think-
thank you.
Yep. And those are the only things I had. Does anyone on the committee have anything else they want to talk about?
I'm just taking a look at this now.
Yeah.
So Alex, do we have to, we have to get on the select board meeting to get the task force initiated?
At some point, yeah, but I think they want us to make sure everyone gets the letters of interest, which no one has submitted yet. I'll send up on our email.
Okay. All right.
Depending on what the vote is tomorrow for the town, or what the decision is tomorrow for the town administrator, it might be, we might not be able to do anything till July.
Okay.
And other
Right.
than the municipal fiber build out, I've just changed all of the things that said IT, the digital equity committee. But we can change that however y'all need. If there's
Okay.
something else that we want to add, and then the bylaws, I changed to the bylaws committee, but if there's other ones that, whether it's additional or in place of organizations that would be involved in the process, we can add them.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and since these are due at the end of the month, our hope is to get your comments in maybe by the end of next week, if that's possible, so that we can address your comments and
Okay.
So Alex, I have a question. Where it says improve Wi-Fi speeds at the library and fire department, are we able to add the senior center and other locations as well?
So for the municipal fiber build out, Crystal, I think for municipal buildings, I believe we're trying to get all the buildings up. So it's not just the library and fire department, it's town hall. My building already has it. COA, some of the DPW buildings, all of them. So that still needs to be finished. But if you look at page 22 where it says that 10 grand, that's pretty much what they need to, or at least when I checked last, that's what they need. That's how much they need to finish it. I'll have to reach out to Kyle and see if that's still a thing.
Yeah, and I would say we just weren't sure. We only knew about the fire department being improved by that one, by the municipal fiber build out. Obviously, it makes sense if more buildings are being connected. We didn't know which ones were. So we put the library there specifically because we didn't know if it would still be part of like the Spectrum bill or if it was going to be improved by the municipal build out. So we can even remove that line item if you guys know for sure that it'll get accomplished with and we can just add that as a note basically under completing the municipal build out that this will improve XYZ buildings, municipal buildings.
I would keep it there just to I would keep it there, and I'll try to get you an updated cost.
Okay. And if there are other buildings, to Chris, I think it was Crystal that said that if it's the library, the fire department, COA, if there are other buildings that we know are already providing that kind of support and will be improved, or again, if this is a separate line item, these will be improved by the municipal build out, and these still would just need to be dealt with and improved.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. I agree, Alex, on what you're saying about just leaving that there because it does bring visualization to what we need to improve instead of putting it, as underneath a note, because it will expand once things go a little bit further of where we need to improve the Wi-Fi speeds.
Exactly. And I just also want to make sure that if there are any tariffs that are applied to this project, if it is more than 10 grand, I want to make sure that's reflected.
For sure.
Because I could say, oh, it's 10 grand, but we're only gonna hook up a 4 for what's left.
Right. Or even like the speeds that are getting connected. My understanding was the municipal fiber's main concern was to provide a redundant internet connection, not necessarily improved speeds. So it may not actually improve the Wi-Fi speeds in those buildings. It may just keep them from going offline. So just another thing to confirm is that would still be a thing that would still need to be improved, even if the fiber build out gets done or when it gets completed, if they're still on the lower end of speeds, if they're still just kind of matching what you already have, and it's been noted as a concern.
So they are already being serviced by South Hadley Electric Light.
Okay.
And I can tell you now that I have yet to have any internet drops, or at where I'd have to reset the router or anything. It's been really pretty reliable on that in that respect. And plus, since South Hadley's already being used for this project, it could also be used for our residential project as well. So, want to point that out. But I understand the concern. Anyone else have any other questions, concerns? Crystal, you're muted.
Yeah, I know. I just keep doing that. My background playing. So, if we do have any other questions, are we able to amend what we have here, or this, since it is the draft, are you going to send it over or give us a chance to see if we have any amendments?
Yeah, sorry, that was what I meant earlier is Alex sent you all the draft yesterday. And so our hope is to get any comments you have by the end of next week, by the 13th, so that we can amend this before it's final.
When do you have to send it in?
The end of June.
Okay.
So if we met in 2 weeks, we'll be able to have a final vote.
Okay, that'll be great.
So actually, Cody, does MBI need the select board to approve this? No.
Nope, we just want to make sure that what we publish is something that y'all are good with. Obviously, some of it being the formatting and the grammatical, but also the action items that you're going to be, this committee is responsible for doing something with when this is all over. So if there's things that are missing, if there are things that you want added, if there are things that you want removed, reworded, right? Like increasing staff. We don't like that verbiage, but we want to say increasing support and adding, to the description about how you'd like to get consultant support. And again, if there's a dollar sign that we can associate as well, that we don't need by the 13th, but we would like it to be able to incorporate into the funding application so that, again, we can make sure that you're getting what you need.
Okay. So I guess with that said, I'll put out an email telling everyone to look through everything and get back to me by like the 10th, so I have time to give you the corrections and amendments, and you can do what you need to do. And then in 2 weeks, we can have an actual vote on this draft and come up with the next steps.
Sounds good.
So does that sound good to the committee, or does anyone else want to? Thumbs up. Cool. Want to go another route? All right.
I think that sounds fine to me.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, mine, Alex.
I want to put something on the calendar now, if that's okay. So in 2 weeks, it would be the 17th. 17th will work for you, Cody?
Oh, sorry. Let me open my calendar. Something earlier in the day, I guess before 3 would be ideal for me on the 17th. Anytime before 3, I could be available.
So how about like noon or 1 o'clock?
Yep, that's fine.
Is that okay with everyone here?
So far, yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I will not be here, but it's the last day of school, so there's no way. There's no time you can pick. Don't worry about it. You guys will do fine without me. There's no time that you can pick. That would work.
Fair
Alex,
enough.
I have something between 12:30 and 2. that day.
12:30 and 2. Okay. Okay. Excuse me. I'll put something out. And then let's see. Then we have anyone else have any questions or concerns before we schedule the next meeting? Okay. Subcommittees, since we're not voting on this today, if everyone wants to put in their thoughts on what we should do for subcommittees to split up the work, that would be helpful. Great. So that comes to adjournment. Anyone have any questions, concerns before we adjourn?
No.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
All right,
I'll
we got-
second it.
Okay, we're gonna call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, Cody.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Thank you, Cody. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye.